Let's start with my favorite gear that I picked up in 2019, and I will explain a little bit why that is on my list. Number 5 is the Rode NTG3. This is on the list simply because it is a really nice sounding shotgun microphone. If you're looking for a darker, fuller low end from your shotgun microphone, I actually received multiple emails on one of the episodes I recorded with this mic saying it was the best that the show has ever sounded. So I probably should be using that microphone still, but I am not. Alas, I am not. But based on the fact that I really enjoyed the sound of that microphone, and it seems quite a few other people really liked the sound of that microphone, that is number 5 for my favorite gear of 2019. Number 4 is the CAD E100S. This is because it is a bright but insanely smooth microphone, but also because my expectations were so low. The reason being, I have tested out the CAD U1 and the CAD U37, and those are some terrible microphones based on my experience. I believe other people have had amazing experiences with them. Oh, it's so cheap, it sounds so good. Cool. I didn't have that experience. So I was expecting pretty much every CAD microphone to be somewhat subpar. The E100S completely blew my expectations out of the water, and it sounds incredible. It lets you get that full low end that is round and warm and beautiful, and then the top end, it maintains that detail and clarity without becoming piercing or sharp or unpleasant to listen to or even sibilant. It maintains that soft and smooth and rounded top end, which in my opinion is what makes a good presence or treble boosted mic. Number 3 is the Neat King Bee. This came in on the very last day of 2019. That is when my video came out, so it almost didn't make the cut for 2019, but this is a sleeper microphone. Holy smokes. If you don't know about Neat, it was a microphone company started by the same people who made Blue mics, but they started the company under Gibson. Gibson makes guitars, and they had a bunch of subsidiary companies that made pro audio gear, Neat being one of those companies. While Neat was under Gibson, they released 4 microphones, I think it was, the Neat King Bee, the Neat Worker Bee, and then 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 USB microphones. But based on the USB microphone that I tested, it had a little bit of interference, although it did sound nice tonally, but I wasn't terribly impressed with it because of the issues there. But the Neat King Bee started at $350 or $400 while they were under Gibson. They bought themselves out from Gibson's ownership when Gibson was going through a bankruptcy, a restructuring, I believe, and they decreased the price from $350 to $99. And at $100, this is knocking some competition down because it sounds so good. It has that warm, round, soft low end without being overly boomy or muddy. And the top end does have a bit of a boost to it, but it is not piercing or painful to listen to. It just adds some nice clarity and detail to offset the proximity effect when you get right on top of the microphone. At $100, it blew my mind, and it is a highly recommended microphone by me now. Number 2 is the SE Electronics SE4400A. When I started this review, I said, I wonder what microphone they could be ripping off, alluding to the AKG C414 because it has a very similar profile, a very similar design, as well as a very similar feature set. So it is very clear what they are doing here, what they are trying to bring to mind when a potential customer looks at that microphone. But when I listened to the sound that it recorded, this is one of the very rare wow moments for me. When I heard that, I legitimately said, wow, that sounds incredible. It is a stellar microphone. I shouldn't use stellar anymore because that's now a model model name for some company that I don't fully support. But it does have this amazing sound quality to it. It is very even sounding all throughout the frequency response range. It is insanely versatile with all the cuts, as well as I think there's 9 polar patterns that you can switch between, or maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe there's only 4. I can't remember if there's in-between settings for any of the polar patterns, but it is insanely versatile. It sounds incredible, and I haven't reviewed the 414 XLS or XL2 yet, but I think the 4400A is going to give those microphones a run for their money because good golly gee willikers, that really was a wow microphone for me. And number 1 is the Motu M2. The reason this is on the list, it's not the most groundbreaking device. There are plenty of interfaces out there, and most of them will do everything you need them to do. The reason this is number 1 for me is because it seems Motu looked at what people were complaining about with audio interfaces and said, yeah, okay, we can do that. We can fix that. We can add that. And they did it. One of the only things that I have heard people asking for on the M2 line or the M line is inserts. Other than that, I think it does everything you could possibly need out of an interface, and it hits way above its weight class in terms of latency, noise performance, dynamic range, A to D converters. Everything is just top of the line, and I don't understand how it is at the price that it's at. Did that make sense? I don't understand how they are pricing it the way that they are because it is so high quality. Now, I should include a disclaimer. I don't know what the longevity of this device will be. I only had it a few weeks when I did the review, so it's possible that it will work well for 6 months and then just die. But if it does have any kind of life to it, I think that it is dethroned the other most popular selling interfaces because it does everything you need, and they added some very simple features that I am not clear why other audio interface manufacturers did not add, like usable meters, actual LED or LCD meters on there so you can tell what level you're hitting. As Julian Krause says, it would be nice to have some numbers on there, a scale, so you know exactly what you're hitting, but it gives you a much easier idea or a much better idea of what you're actually recording. And they added an on-off switch. What a novel idea. Just flip the switch. Okay, I don't want the interface on right now. I am not recording. Off. What a novel idea. So those are my top 5 favorite pieces of gear of 2019. I do have 2 honorable mentions. The Symbiosis Box of Doom, that really would be my number 1 if I had done a video on it, because that box saved my channel. If it wasn't for buying that isolation cab and Sylvester, I think his name is, working with me to add a USB pass-through so I can test USB microphones in that, I would have quit the channel because I was so discouraged and beat up after getting some noise complaints. I was ready to call it a day, but I am perfectly happy with how that turned out, and to my ears, it sounds incredible. I've had no noise complaints. I can still do my guitar tests, and I am in love with that thing. And the second honorable mention for me is the Ernie Ball Music Man guitar that I bought. That's what I got for hitting 100,000 subscribers. It was a present to myself for 4 years of not quitting, of putting in the work and just grinding away every single week. And I love that guitar. I don't think I have touched a guitar or played a guitar that plays that well or feels that natural in my hand. I absolutely love everything about it. Maybe a little bit hotter output, maybe a little bit more control over the tone, but other than those 2 things, which are very minor, I am in love with that guitar, and that's going to be one that I play for the rest of my life. It just feels so right in the hand. There you go. Now that is all of my favorite gear of 2019. I am already compiling the list for 2020 because we have some heavy hitters coming up.